The shuttle was small and plain. It had no gold decorations or bright colors like the other ships that filled the docking bay of the Galactic Council station. Ambassador Sarah Chen looked out the window at the massive vessels surrounding them. Ships from 100 different worlds gleamed under the station's lights. Some were shaped like flowers. Others looked like giant insects or flowing water frozen in metal form. Their human shuttle looked like a gray box with engines. "They're staring at us," said Marcus Webb, the security officer standing behind Chen's seat. His voice was quiet and calm. "Let them stare," Chen replied. She smoothed down her simple blue uniform. No medals, no weapons, just a data pad in her hand and a small bag over her shoulder. The shuttle door opened with a soft hiss. Chen walked down the ramp with her team of 5 humans behind her. The docking bay fell silent. Dozens of alien species stopped their conversations to watch the newcomers. A tall creature with purple skin and 4 arms approached them. Its face had too many eyes and its mouth was vertical instead of horizontal. "Humans?" it asked in perfect English, though its translator device glowed at its throat. "Yes," Chen said with a polite smile. "Ambassador Sarah Chen and delegation from Earth. We're here for the council session." The purple alien looked them up and down. Its many eyes blinked in a pattern that seemed like disapproval. "Follow me. Quickly now. The session begins soon and we don't hold proceedings for latecomers." They walked through corridors made of crystal that glowed with soft light. Aliens of every shape and size moved past them. Some floated. Others slithered or crawled. A few walked on legs like humans, but most were completely different. Many of them stopped to stare. Chen heard whispers in languages she didn't understand, but her translator picked up some words. Primitives. Deathworlders. Late bloomers. Marcus leaned close to her ear. "They don't seem friendly." "We're not here to make friends on day 1, Chen whispered back. "We're here to listen and learn." The council chamber was enormous. It was shaped like a bowl with seats rising up in circular rows. At the bottom center was a raised platform with a single chair that glowed with golden light. Hundreds of seats filled the chamber, and most of them were already occupied. The purple alien pointed to a section at the very back of the chamber, near the top rows. "Your seats are there." Chen looked where it pointed. The seats were small and plain. They were partially hidden behind a support column. From those seats they would be able to see everything, but everyone would have to turn around to see them. "The back row?" Marcus asked. "Yes, for new members and observers with limited status. Surely you understand your position here." The purple alien's voice carried something that might have been amusement. "The front rows are for the founding species and the major powers. You will earn your way forward perhaps in a few centuries." Chen nodded. "Thank you for the guidance." They climbed the stairs to their assigned seats. The chamber grew quiet as they passed. Chen felt hundreds of eyes watching them. She heard more whispers and saw several aliens making gestures that were clearly not welcoming. As they took their seats, a massive creature covered in scales and sharp armor stood up several rows below them. It had a head like a reptile and arms thick with muscle. Its voice boomed through the chamber without any translator. "I see the council scrapes the bottom of the barrel now. What's next? Shall we invite the primitive species from the outer rim who still use chemical rockets?" Laughter echoed through the chamber. Chen recognized the species from her briefing files. The Cathar. Militaristic. Aggressive. They had conquered 47 worlds and controlled one of the largest fleets in known space. Chen said nothing. She opened her datapad and began taking notes. Another voice spoke up, this one smooth and ancient-sounding. "Now, Commander Dracoth, we must show patience with newcomers. They cannot help that they develop so slowly, only 300 years from their first flight to joining us here. High people took only 70 years. More laughter followed. Chen glanced at the speaker. A Viridian, one of the oldest species in the council. They looked almost like humans, but with silver skin and eyes that had no pupils, just swirling colors. They were known for their pride in their ancient civilization. 300 years, another voice chittered from across the chamber. How quaint. And they bring only 6 delegates. 6. We brought 50 for our first session. Marcus shifted in his seat. Chen touched his arm gently and shook her head. Not yet. The golden chair at the center of the chamber flared with brighter light. A being materialized in it, tall and thin, made of what looked like living crystal. Council leader Vorthax. He had led the Galactic Council for 200 years. Order, Vorthax said. His voice was like wind chimes. The session begins. All members will show respect to the proceedings, regardless of their opinions about new observers. The chamber fell silent, though Chen could still see aliens turning to look at them and making gestures to each other. Vorthax continued. Today we address trade route disputes in the Beta Quadrant, resource allocation for the frontier worlds, and the petition from the Prex Commonwealth regarding expansion rights near the Void Nebula. The session began. Aliens stood and spoke in turn. They debated trade percentages and shipping lanes. They argued about mining rights on uninhabited moons. The discussions were complex and detailed, covering centuries of treaties and agreements. Chen listened to everything. She took notes on her datapad constantly. Her team did the same, their fingers moving quickly and quietly. They didn't speak. They didn't ask questions. They simply watched and recorded. Hours passed. The session covered dozens of topics. Twice votes were called. Vorthax would say all in favor, and lights would glow at each seat to indicate a vote. Chen's section had a voting light too. When the votes were called, she would press either the green or red button based on her instructions from Earth Command, but she never spoke. None of the humans did. As the session stretched into its fourth hour, a tall creature with too many joints in its arms stood up. I move that we discuss the sector near human space. There are 3 uninhabited systems there that would serve well for Prex expansion. Since the humans clearly lack the resources to develop or defend them, we should claim them for efficient use. Chen's fingers stopped moving on her datapad. Marcus tensed beside her, but Chen remained perfectly calm. She pressed a button on her datapad and continued taking notes. Vorthax nodded. The motion is noted. We will address it in next session when we have proper survey data. Are there other matters for today? The Cathar commander Dracoth stood again. His scales rattled as he moved. I have one question, Council Leader. The humans have sat silently for 4 hours. Do they understand what's happening? Perhaps their translators are malfunctioning, or perhaps they're simply too primitive to follow our discussions. He turned to look directly at Chen. Should we speak more slowly for the apes in the back? The chamber erupted in laughter. Even Vorthax's crystal body seemed to shimmer with amusement. Chen looked up from her datapad. She met Dracoth's eyes. She smiled politely. Then she returned to her notes without saying a word. The laughter grew louder. An alien near them whispered loudly enough for them to hear. They don't even defend themselves. Perhaps they truly are primitives. Marcus's jaw was tight. Another team member, Dr. Sarah Kim, had her hands clenched. But Chen remained calm. She checked something on her datapad, made another note, and continued to smile her polite, patient smile. Vorthax called the session to a close. We will reconvene in 3 cycles. All matters not addressed today will continue then. The chamber began to empty. Aliens filed out in groups, many of them still looking at the humans and laughing. Chen stood slowly and gathered her things. Her team followed her down the stairs toward the exit. As they walked past the Cathar delegation, Dracoth stepped into their path. He towered over Chen, easily 3 times her size. Tell me, little human, did you enjoy your first council session? Or was it too complicated for your simple mind? Chen looked up at him. Her smile never wavered. It was very educational, Commander. Thank you for your concern. Educational, Dracoth repeated. He laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. Yes, I suppose even primitives can be educated. Perhaps in a few thousand years your species will have something meaningful to contribute. Perhaps, Chen said. She stepped around him and continued walking. Behind her she heard more laughter. But Chen's smile had changed. It was still polite, still patient, but now there was something else in it too. Something that Marcus recognized as he followed her back to their shuttle. It was the smile of someone who knew something important. Something the others didn't know. Chen checked her datapad one more time as they boarded their shuttle. A single message glowed on the screen. It had arrived during the session, all units in position, holding formation, awaiting orders. Chen deleted the message and put the datapad away. That went well, she said to her team. We learned a lot today. They mocked us for 4 hours, Dr. Kim said. Yes, Chen agreed. They did. And while they were busy being entertained by us, they forgot to ask the most important question. What question? Marcus asked. Chen looked out the shuttle window at the darkness of space beyond the station. 3 council sessions had passed. 3 more times, Ambassador Chen and her small team had climbed to the back rows. 3 more times they had sat quietly and taken notes while the galactic powers debated and decided the fate of worlds. And 3 more times they had been mocked. The pattern had become routine. The humans would arrive in their plane shuttle. They would walk through the crystal corridors while aliens whispered and pointed. They would climb to their seats in the back, and they would say nothing while the council conducted its business. The other species had stopped being subtle about their contempt. Now the insults came openly, and often. In the second session, a delegate from the Prex Commonwealth had stood and addressed Vorthax directly. Council leader, I noticed the humans continued to attend our sessions. While we appreciate their interest, I wonder if we should perhaps provide them with educational materials first. Simple documents explaining how galactic civilization works, perhaps picture books given their developmental level. The chamber had roared with laughter. Jen had simply smiled and made another note on her datapad. In the third session, Commander Dracoth had brought a box of what looked like candy. He had offered them to the council chamber, saying loudly, I brought treats for everyone, even the pets in the back. Do humans like treats? Should I throw them so they can fetch? More laughter. Jen had declined politely and continued her note-taking. Now in the fourth session, things were escalating. The Viridian ambassador, a silver-skinned elder named Tyron, had taken the floor. His voice carried the weight of 40,000 years of civilization. I propose a new initiative, Tyron announced, an education program for developing species. We could offer courses in basic technology, fundamental diplomacy, and simple governance. I believe our human friends would benefit greatly from such a program. He turned to look at Chen with what might have been kindness on his alien features. There is no shame in being young, Ambassador Chen. My people were once as primitive as yours. We simply had better teachers. Several delegates applauded. Vorthax's crystal body shimmered. An interesting proposal. We will discuss the framework in a future session. Ambassador Chen, would your people be interested in such assistance? For the first time in 4 sessions, Chen stood up. The chamber fell silent. Hundreds of eyes turned to the back row where the humans sat. Chen spoke clearly, her voice calm. We appreciate the generous offer, Ambassador Tyron. However, we must respectfully decline. We believe we can learn more by observing than by attending classes. She sat back down. The silence lasted for 3 seconds. Then the chamber erupted in laughter again. Even Vorthax seemed amused. Observing, Dracoth bellowed. Yes, I suppose observation is all your species is capable of. Like small animals watching their betters. Very well, continue to observe. Perhaps you'll evolve eventually. Chen smiled her patient smile and returned to her datapad. The session continued. More trade disputes were resolved. More territorial claims were debated. The council moved on to discussing expansion rights in contested space. A delegate stood up, a floating creature covered in tentacles and bioluminescent spots. I wish to address the matter raised in the previous session. The uninhabited systems near human space. 3 star systems rich in resources, completely undeveloped. The humans have made no move to claim or develop them in the 75 years since they discovered faster-than-light travel. Vorthax nodded. Continue. These systems lie in a strategic position. The Prex Commonwealth could use them for trade hubs and resource extraction. We have the technology and the workforce. The humans clearly do not. I propose we claim these systems for efficient utilization. The humans can still access them, of course, but under our governance. Chen's fingers stopped typing. Marcus shifted beside her. Dr. Kim leaned forward. But Chen remained calm. She didn't stand. She didn't speak. She simply watched. Dracoth stood again. I second this proposal. The Cathar Empire has also noted these systems. We agree they are wasted in human hands. Perhaps we should simply divide them among the major powers. The humans won't protest. They haven't said more than 20 words in 4 sessions. Several delegates voiced agreement. The floating Prex delegate continued. We mean no disrespect to our human observers, but surely they understand that developed species have a responsibility to use resources efficiently. Leaving entire star systems empty and undeveloped benefits no one. Tyron, the Viridian elder, stood. I suggest a compromise. We could develop the systems but set aside a small portion for human use. Call it a learning opportunity. They could observe how a proper civilization develops new territory. It would be educational for them. The chamber murmured with approval. This seemed reasonable to most of the delegates. Generous, even. Vorthax raised a crystalline hand for silence. This matter requires formal debate. We will discuss it properly next session. However, I believe the Council's direction is clear. Ambassador Chen, do you wish to speak to this matter now before it proceeds to formal vote? Chen stood slowly. The chamber fell silent again. She walked down 2 steps so she was more visible to the Council. Her team remained seated, watching her carefully. Council leader, Chen said, before we discuss who will claim those star systems, I have one simple question. Ask, Vorthax replied. Has anyone checked what's outside this station? Confused silence filled the chamber. Several delegates looked at each other. Dracoth's scales rattled with what might have been annoyance. Outside, Vorthax asked. Ambassador Chen, I don't understand your question. The station is in neutral space, as it has been for 600 years. What relevance does the space around us have to territorial claims 15 light-years away? Chen's smile remained patient. I simply think it would be good to check. Before we continue, just to be thorough, Dracoth stood again. This is a waste of the Council's time. The human is confused as usual. Council leader, I move we proceed without this distraction. But Vorthax was staring at Chen now. Something in her calm expression had caught his attention. He had led the Council for 200 years. He had negotiated with hundreds of species. He knew when someone was playing a game he didn't understand. Humor me, Ambassador, Vorthax said slowly. Why would we need to check outside? Just curious, Chen replied. You're all such advanced civilizations. Surely your sensors are monitoring the space around this station constantly. I'd simply like to see what they show. If it's not too much trouble. The chamber was completely silent now. The mood had shifted from amusement to confusion. A few delegates were starting to look uncertain. Tyron spoke quietly. Council leader, perhaps we should simply show the displays and move on. The human is clearly stalling, but it costs us nothing to satisfy her curiosity. Vorthax nodded. Computer, display external sensor feeds on the main screens. Standard range, all directions. Massive holographic displays materialized in the air above the Council floor. They showed the space surrounding the station from every angle. Stars dotted the darkness. The station's docking arms were visible, with dozens of ships attached. Beyond that, empty space stretched in all directions. Dracoth laughed. There, happy now, human? You see nothing but space as expected. Can we return to important matters? Chen was still smiling. She looked at the displays carefully. Could you adjust the scale, please? Show a wider range, and perhaps recalibrate the sensors for very large objects. Slow-moving ones. This is absurd, a delegate shouted. But Vorthax was staring at Chen with growing unease. Computer, comply with the ambassador's request. Extend range to 1 million kilometers. Recalibrate for large, slow-moving objects. The displays flickered. The view expanded. At first nothing changed. Just more empty space and distant stars. Then the sensors began marking objects. Small red dots appeared on the displays. A few at first. Then dozens. Then hundreds. The chamber fell into shocked silence. What are those? Tyron asked quietly. Chen walked down a few more steps. Computer, enhance the closest object. Full resolution. One of the displays zoomed in on the nearest red dot. The image resolved slowly. What had looked like empty space revealed itself. A shape emerged from the darkness. It was massive, angular, covered in armor plating that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Weapon ports lined its hull. Engine arrays that could move mountains. It was a warship, larger than anything in the Council docking bay. No, larger than 20 of the biggest ships in the docking bay combined. A delegate from an insect-like species stood up. That's impossible. Our sensors would have detected something that large. They did detect it, Chen said softly. They just classified it as space debris or an asteroid. The stealth coding is quite good, and when a ship is completely still using minimal power, sensors tend to ignore it. One ship, Dracoth said, but his voice was shaking. One ship means nothing. Computer, Chen said. Mark all objects. Full count. The displays updated. Red dots filled the screens. They surrounded the station in a perfect sphere. The computer began counting in the corner of each display. 50 ships. 100 ships. 200 ships. The count kept rising. 417 ships. All of them massive. All of them had been sitting there perfectly still since before the first council session. All of them completely hidden until someone knew to look for them. The emergency council session was called 6 hours after the humans left. It was the first emergency session in 43 years. The last one had been called when the Void Nebula started expanding and threatened to swallow 12 inhabited systems. This was worse. The chamber was packed. Every species had sent their representatives. Even minor members who usually skipped regular sessions had arrived. The mood was not just tense. It was terrified. Vorthax materialized in his chair. For the first time in his 200 years of leadership, he looked shaken. His crystal body flickered with uncertain light. "Order," he called out, but his voice lacked its usual authority. "We must have order." The chamber fell silent, but it was not the respectful silence of previous sessions. It was the silence of prey animals hiding from a predator. "The matter before us is clear," Vorthax continued. "The humans have revealed a military capacity that exceeds our worst projections. We must determine our response. We must understand what we are dealing with." Commander Dracoth stood. His scales were still pale and his movements were jerky. "Council leader, I move that we demand an explanation. 417 warships constitute an invasion force. This is an act of war. We should mobilize immediately and prepare our defenses." A delegate from a small herbivore species stood up, trembling. "Mobilize against what? Those ships are each powerful enough to destroy a planet. 417 of them could wipe out every major civilization in this council in a matter of days. Mobilizing would be suicide." "Then we negotiate," another voice called out. "We offer them trade rights, territory, whatever they want. Just get those ships away from the station." "We don't negotiate from weakness," a Prex delegate shouted back. "That sets a precedent. Every species will know we bowed to the first show of force. We'll look weak." Tyron the Viridian Elder stood slowly. He looked older than usual, his silver skin dull. "My friends, we have made a terrible mistake. A mistake of arrogance and assumption. We treated these humans as primitives because they were new. We mocked them because they were quiet. We never asked ourselves why a species would sit silently in the back row while being insulted. They were studying us," a voice said quietly from across the chamber. Everyone turned. The speaker was a small amphibian-like creature from a minor world. Its species rarely spoke in council. "What did you say?" Vorthax asked. "They were studying us," the amphibian repeated louder now. Ambassador Chen said it herself. "They were observing. Learning our cultures, our behaviors, our weaknesses. While we laughed at them, they were taking notes. Detailed notes. On all of us." The chamber erupted in panicked conversations. Delegates began pulling out their own data pads, checking records, reviewing everything they had said in the previous sessions. Dracoth slammed a massive fist against his podium. "I refuse to believe this. So they have many ships, so what? Numbers alone do not determine victory. We need to analyze their technology, their tactics, their actual capabilities. Allow me to help with that," a new voice said. A holographic image appeared at the center of the chamber. It was a human, but not Ambassador Chen. This was a man in a dark uniform with more decorations and medals. His gray hair was cut short and his eyes were hard. "Military eyes, who are you?" Vorthax demanded. "Admiral James Hawking, commander of the Terran Defense Fleet. I'm transmitting from the flagship Indomitable, currently holding position 42,000 kilometers from your station." The Admiral's voice was flat and professional. "Ambassador Chen informed me that the Council requested information about our capabilities. I'm here to provide that information." "The Council requested no such thing," Vorthax said. "Perhaps not officially," Hawking replied. "But you want to know what you're dealing with. So I'm going to tell you, whether you want to hear it or not." The chamber was silent. No one dared interrupt. Admiral Hawking pulled up a display. "The 417 vessels surrounding the station represent Strike Group 7, one of 12 such groups in the Terran Defense Fleet. Each group is designed to operate independently and to pacify or defend a contested region of space roughly 30 light-years across." He let that sink in. 12 groups, 12 times 417. Each vessel is classified as a dreadnought by our standards. They carry quantum-locked antimatter reactors generating enough power to supply your entire station for 700 years. Their weapons include gravitational lensing arrays capable of crushing a moon into a singularity, relativistic kinetic kill vehicles that can't be intercepted or defended against, and something we call probability bombs, which you don't want me to explain. A Prex military analyst stood up, her tentacles shaking. "That's impossible. The energy requirements alone would require technology centuries beyond what we have. Not centuries, Hawking said. Just different. You see, most species achieve faster than light travel and then slow down their military development. They join a galactic community. They make friends. They feel safe. Humanity never felt safe. We've been alone in the dark for our entire history, fighting each other, preparing for threats we couldn't imagine yet. When we finally broke FTL, we didn't celebrate and relax. We accelerated. He pulled up another display. This one showed a timeline. In the 75 years since our first FTL flight, we've built 58,000 warships of various classes. The 417 dreadnoughts here are the large ones. There are also 6,000 destroyers, 12,000 frigates, and about 40,000 smaller vessels like fighters and bombers. Tyron's legs gave out. He sat down hard, his silver skin now completely gray. 58,000 warships. In 75 years. We're efficient when we're scared, Hawking said. And humanity has been scared for a very long time. We evolved on a death world. Everything on Earth was trying to kill us. The weather, the animals, the plants, the diseases. We survived by being meaner, smarter, and more determined than anything else. Then we developed intelligence and started fighting each other. We've been in a state of warfare for 90% of our recorded history. He switched displays again. This one showed battle footage. Human soldiers fighting with weapons that tore through armor like paper. Human ships moving in coordinated patterns that seemed impossible. Human cities rebuilding after devastation, again and again and again. We've fought thousands of wars, Hawking continued. We know every form of warfare. Naval combat, ground assault, orbital bombardment, guerrilla tactics, psychological operations, economic warfare. We've done it all, tested it all, perfected it all, fighting each other for 10,000 years. Commander Drykoth found his voice, though it cracked. If you're so good at war, why haven't you conquered us already? Hawking's expression softened slightly. Because we're tired, Commander. Humanity has won too many wars. We've destroyed ourselves a dozen times over our history and clawed our way back each time. We know what war costs. We know what it feels like to win and still lose everything that matters. He paused, and genuine sadness crossed his face. When we reached the stars and found other life, we had a choice. Be what we'd always been, conquerors and fighters, or try to be something better. We chose to try being better. That's why Ambassador Chen came to your council with 6 people and a datapad instead of an invasion force. But you brought the invasion force anyway, a delegate shouted. You brought it and hid it in the dark watching us. Yes, Hawking agreed. Because we're trying to be better, not stupid. We came in peace, but we came prepared for war. Just in case your peaceful galactic community wasn't as peaceful as advertised. Vorthax managed to steady himself. What do you want from us, Admiral? The same thing Ambassador Chen wanted. To talk, to trade, to learn, to maybe find some friends out here in the dark. Hawking leaned forward. But here's what you need to understand, Council Leader. We didn't reveal our fleet because we want to threaten you. We revealed it because you were already threatening us. You were talking about taking our territory. You were mocking our diplomats. You were treating us like we were weak, his voice hardened. Humanity is not weak. We're the opposite of weak. We're what happens when a species survives everything the universe throws at it and keeps fighting. We're what happens when extinction is a regular threat and you just get angry instead of dying. We sat in the back row because we chose to, not because you put us there. The chamber was absolutely silent. Even the translation devices seemed quiet. Hawking straightened. Ambassador Chen will return to the next council session. We hope you'll treat her with more respect. Not because you're afraid of our ships, but because she deserves respect. She's trying very hard to build bridges instead of burning them. I suggest you help her with that. His hologram flickered. Oh, and Commander Drykoth? The Cathar Empire has 47 conquered worlds and a fleet of about 8,000 vessels, correct? Drykoth nodded slowly, unable to speak. We know the location of your shipyards. We know your fleet deployments. We know your supply lines. We know your military encryption codes, your command structure, and your tactical doctrine. We've known all of this for 3 weeks. Hawking smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. That's what we were doing while you made jokes about throwing treats for us to fetch. The next regular council session arrived 3 cycles later. The chamber filled slowly. No one wanted to be the first to arrive, but no one wanted to miss what would happen either. Every seat was filled. Even species that had skipped the last 20 sessions sent representatives. They needed to see this. They needed to understand what they had awakened. The back row seats remained empty. For now, Vorthax materialized in his chair. He looked around the chamber and saw fear in every face. He understood it. He felt it too. But he was the council leader. He had to maintain some semblance of order. Before we begin official proceedings, Vorthak said, I want to address what happened in our last session. We made assumptions. We showed disrespect. We acted with arrogance. To any humans listening to this transmission, I personally apologize on behalf of the Galactic Council. Several delegates murmured agreement. Others nodded. Only a few, like Commander Drakoth, sat in stiff silence. The chamber doors opened. Ambassador Chen entered with her small team. They walked calmly up the stairs to the back row, just as they had done before. Chen carried her datapad. Her team carried nothing but their confidence. As they took their seats, the chamber remained silent. No whispers, no mocking gestures. Just respectful, fearful silence, Chen noticed. She smiled slightly and nodded to Vorthax. Thank you, Council Leader. Your words are appreciated. May we begin the session? Actually, Vorthax said carefully, before we begin regular business, I believe the Council would appreciate some clarification. Admiral Hawking provided information, but we still have many questions. Would you be willing to address the Council? Chen glanced at her team. Marcus nodded slightly. Dr. Kim pulled up something on her datapad. Chen stood and walked down to the Council floor. This time she went all the way to the center, standing beside Vorthax's chair. I'd be happy to answer questions, Chen said, though I should warn you the answers might not make you feel better. Tyron stood. His silver skin had regained some of its color, but his voice was still shaken. Ambassador Chen, how is it possible? 58,000 warships in 75 years. The energy requirements, the resources, the manufacturing capacity. My civilization is 50,000 years old. We have perhaps 3,000 military vessels total. How did you do it so quickly? Chen nodded. Dr. Kim, please display file Earth History 1. A holographic display appeared above the council floor. It showed Earth from space, a blue and green world spinning slowly. This is our home, Chen said. Earth. Humanity evolved here over 4 million years. For most of that time, we were just animals. Then about 300,000 years ago, we became human, modern humans, with intelligence and language and the ability to think abstractly. The display changed. It showed early humans in caves, around fires, hunting with primitive tools. For most of our history, we lived like this. Small tribes, simple tools. But even then, we were special. Earth is what we call a death world. The gravity is high. The weather is extreme. The diseases are aggressive. The predators are numerous and clever. Everything on Earth evolved in an arms race of survival. The display shifted rapidly through scenes. Humans fighting giant predators. Humans enduring ice ages. Humans spreading across hostile continents. Humans dying and adapting and surviving. We nearly went extinct several times, Chen continued. But we survived. We survived because we were smarter than the predators, tougher than the weather, and more adaptable than the diseases. We learned to work together. We learned to use tools. We learned to think ahead and plan and build. A Prex delegate raised a tentacle. Many species evolved on difficult worlds. That doesn't explain your military capacity. True, Chen agreed. But here's where we're different. About 12,000 years ago, we invented agriculture. We settled down. We built cities. And then we started fighting each other. The display showed ancient armies clashing, bronze weapons, iron swords, cavalry charges, siege engines. We've been at war for 10,000 years, Chen said quietly. Not occasional wars. Constant wars. Somewhere on Earth at any given moment in history, there was a war happening. We fought over territory, resources, religion, pride, revenge, and sometimes just because we were bored. The display accelerated. Medieval battles, gunpowder weapons, naval warfare, trenches and tanks and aircraft, nuclear explosions. The chamber watched in horror as the images showed humanity's progression in warfare. Weapons became more efficient. Tactics became more brutal. The scale of destruction grew exponentially. 200 years ago, Chen said, we fought a war that killed 85 million people in 6 years. We followed that 20 years later with another war that killed another 70 million. We developed nuclear weapons and came within minutes of destroying ourselves completely at least twice. Commander Drakoth found his voice. You're monsters. Yes, Chen said simply. We are. We can be. But here's the important part. We learned. The display changed again. It showed humans rebuilding, cities rising from rubble, former enemies working together, space programs, peaceful exploration. About 150 years ago, we started to change. We realized that we were going to destroy ourselves if we didn't stop. So we tried. We created global governments. We shared technology. We focused our energy on exploration instead of conquest. We built ships and went to space. Chen gestured to the display. But we didn't forget how to fight. We couldn't. The universe is too big and too unknown. So we kept building weapons. We kept training soldiers. We kept preparing for war even while we hoped for peace. And when we developed faster-than-light travel 75 years ago, we had a decision to make. What decision? Forthax asked. Whether to be explorers or conquerors, Chen replied. Whether to greet the galaxy with open hands or closed fists. We chose open hands. But we brought the closed fist with us just in case. She walked slowly around the council floor, meeting the eyes of various delegates. You asked how we built 58,000 ships in 75 years. The answer is simple. We already had the capacity. Earth has 43 billion people. We have industrial facilities that have been building weapons and ships for centuries. We have a military tradition going back thousands of years. We have institutional knowledge about warfare that most species have forgotten or never learned. Dr. Kim called out from the back row. Ambassador, should I display the comparative analysis? Please do. New holographic displays appeared. They showed different species' histories side by side with humanity's. The Viridians, Chen said, pointing to one display. 50,000 years of civilization. Remarkable, truly. But you've had 3 major wars in your entire history. 3. You've forgotten what war really is. It's something your ancient ancestors did. She moved to another display. The Cathar Empire. 47 conquered worlds, impressive. But you conquered them over 2,000 years. Less than 1 world per century. You expanded slowly, carefully, consolidating power. You fight like people who have time. Chen's voice hardened. Humanity conquered our entire planet in less than 500 years. Every continent, every ocean, every people. We did it with stone and bronze and iron. We fought hundreds of nations simultaneously. We know what real conquest looks like because we did it to ourselves. The display shifted to show military comparisons. Human tactics versus alien tactics. Human weapons versus alien weapons. Human ship designs versus alien ship designs. Your weapons are designed for precision strikes, Chen said. For targeted warfare. For minimal casualties. Our weapons are designed to end conflicts as quickly and decisively as possible. You fight to win. We fight to survive, which means we fight to make sure the enemy can never threaten us again. A small delegate from a peaceful species stood up, trembling. Then why haven't you conquered us? If you're so powerful, so good at war, why come here and sit quietly? Chen stopped walking. She looked at the small delegate with genuine sadness. Because we're tired. Because we know what conquest costs. Because we've stood in the ashes of our own cities too many times. Because we've lost billions of people to wars that didn't need to be fought. She returned to the center of the floor. When we found out we weren't alone in the universe, we were hopeful. We thought maybe we could be different out here. Maybe we could build something better. Maybe we could have friends instead of enemies. But you brought the fleet anyway, Dracoth said. Of course we did, Chen replied. Hope is not a strategy. Trust is earned, not given. We came ready to make friends. But we came prepared to defend ourselves if you turned out to be enemies. Forthax spoke quietly. And which are we, Ambassador? Friends or enemies? Chen looked around the chamber. She saw fear in most faces, anger in a few, respect in some, shame in others. That's up to you, she said. We don't want to be your enemies. We really don't, but we won't be your victims either. We won't be mocked, threatened, or pushed around. We won't have our territory claimed because you think we're too weak to defend it. She walked back toward the stairs. We came to this council in peace. We sat quietly in the back because we wanted to learn before speaking. We took your insults because we understood you didn't know better. But now you do know better. Now you understand what we are. Chen paused on the stairs and turned back. We're human. We're survivors. We're fighters. 6 months had passed since the revelation. 6 months since the Galactic Council learned what had been sitting quietly in their back row. The galaxy had changed in that time, though not in the ways anyone expected. There had been no war. No conquest. No fleets burning through space to punish the species that had mocked humanity. Instead, there had been something stranger. something that confused and unsettled the council members more than threats would have. There had been trade agreements, technology exchanges, cultural programs, diplomatic dinners, normal relations between civilizations, but nothing felt normal. The council chamber was filling for another regular session. Delegates took their seats with an awareness that hadn't existed before. They noticed where the other species sat. They watched the doors carefully. They checked their data pads for reports from their intelligence services about human fleet movements. The humans had dispersed their strike group 3 months ago. The 417 dreadnoughts had vanished into deep space, returning to patrol routes and defensive positions around human territory. The council had watched them go with relief that lasted exactly 2 days. That was when intelligence reports started coming in. The humans had 11 more strike groups. They were everywhere, watching everything. And now that the galaxy knew to look for them, they were starting to find things. A Prex survey ship had discovered a human listening post in a supposedly empty system. It had been there for 15 years. A Cathar patrol had encountered human mining operations in 3 asteroids fields they thought were unclaimed. The humans had documentation proving they'd filed proper claims 4 years ago. The Cathar had just never bothered to check the registry for claims from primitive species. A Viridian science vessel had found a human research station in the Void Nebula. The humans were studying the nebula's expansion. They'd been there for 6 years. They invited the Viridian scientists in for tea and shared their data freely. Humanity wasn't invading. They were already there. They'd been there all along. The galaxy was just now noticing them. The chamber doors opened. Ambassador Chen entered with her team. They climbed to the back row as always. Several delegates watched them carefully, looking for signs of threat or aggression. They found nothing but polite smiles and data pads. "Good morning, Council," Chen called out. Her voice was cheerful. Beautiful day for diplomacy. A few delegates managed weak smiles in return. Most just nodded nervously. Borthax materialized in his chair. His crystal body had regained its glow, but there was a weariness to him that hadn't been there before. Leading the council had become much more complicated in 6 months. "Welcome, delegates," Borthax said. Today's agenda includes resource allocation for frontier colonies, updates on the Void Nebula expansion, and a proposal from the human delegation. Ambassador Chen, would you like to present your proposal? Chen stood and walked down to the council floor. She no longer looked like a student observing her teachers. She looked like what she was, a representative of the most powerful military force in known space. "Thank you, Council Leader," Chen said. "My government has been reviewing the security arrangements throughout Council space. We've identified several concerns." The chamber tensed. This was it. The humans were going to make demands. They were going to leverage their military superiority. The peaceful facade was ending. "We've noticed," Chen continued, "that there are multiple ongoing conflicts at the borders of Council space. Small wars, territorial disputes, piracy, that sort of thing. These conflicts threaten the stability of the entire region." Commander Drakoth couldn't stay silent. In the past 6 months, he'd become something different. Still proud, but no longer arrogant. Still military, but no longer dismissive. The encounter with humanity had changed him. "These conflicts are normal," Drakoth said carefully. "They happen in frontier regions. The Council manages them through diplomatic channels. You manage them slowly," Chen said. "Some of these conflicts have been going on for decades. Meanwhile, innocent people suffer. Trade routes are disrupted. Development is delayed." She pulled up a holographic display. "We'd like to propose a joint peacekeeping initiative. Human military vessels working alongside Council forces to stabilize frontier regions. We provide the firepower. You provide the diplomatic legitimacy. Together we end the conflicts quickly and establish lasting peace." Silence filled the chamber. It wasn't the proposal anyone expected. Tyron stood slowly. The old Viridian had aged visibly in 6 months. Learning that his ancient civilization was nowhere near the apex had taken something from him. But it had also given him something new. Humility. "Ambassador Chen," Tyron said, "forgive my bluntness, but why? Why would you offer this? What do you gain?" Chen smiled. "Ambassador Tyron, I'm going to tell you something that might surprise you. Humanity doesn't want to rule the galaxy. We really don't. We have 43 billion people on one planet. We have 6 colony worlds with another 18 billion people. Managing our own civilization is hard enough. Adding yours would be a nightmare. A few delegates actually laughed. The tension broke slightly. What we want, Chen continued, is a stable galaxy. We want trade partners. We want allies. We want to focus on exploration and development instead of constantly preparing for war. But we can't have any of that if the frontier is burning. So we'd like to help put out the fires. A small delegate from a herbivore species stood. And if we say no? If we don't want human military vessels in our territory, then we say no, Chen replied simply. This is a proposal, not a demand. You're sovereign civilizations. You make your own choices. But I'll be honest with you. Those frontier conflicts are getting worse. The piracy is spreading. The territorial disputes are escalating. Eventually, they're going to become everyone's problem. We'd rather solve it now together than wait for it to explode later. Vorthak studied Chen carefully. You've changed your approach, Ambassador. 6 months ago, you were content to sit and observe. Now you're offering military intervention. What changed? Chen walked slowly around the council floor. What changed is that we understand each other better now. 6 months ago, you thought we were primitive. You didn't respect us. We couldn't have this conversation because you wouldn't have listened. Now you know what we are. Now we can talk honestly. She stopped and faced the council directly. Here's the truth. Humanity has been fighting for 10,000 years.
We know war in ways you've forgotten or never learned.
We know how conflicts start. We know how they escalate. We know the warning signs. The display changed. It showed maps of the frontier regions with conflict zones marked in red. The red was spreading, slowly but steadily. These conflicts, Chen said, pointing to the map, remind us of our own history. Small wars that became big wars. Territorial disputes that became genocides. Piracy that became organized military opposition. We've seen this pattern before. On Earth, many times. She zoomed in on one region. This conflict here, between the Prex and the Cathar proxies. It's been going on for 32 years. It started as a dispute over 2 mining asteroids. Now it involves 6 systems and has killed 4 million people. Does anyone here believe it's going to resolve itself peacefully? No one answered. We're offering to help because we don't want to see you repeat our mistakes, Chen said quietly. We've walked this path. It ends in ashes. Let us help you take a different path. Dracoth stood. And if we accept your help, what then? Do we become dependent on human military power? Do we lose our sovereignty? Chen shook her head. No, we help you stabilize the frontier. We train your forces in conflict resolution. We share our tactical knowledge. And then we leave. The goal isn't to make you dependent. The goal is to make you strong enough that you don't need us. She smiled slightly. Think of it as paying forward the help we wish we'd had. Maybe if someone had intervened in our early wars, we wouldn't have spent 10,000 years killing each other. Maybe we could have learned peace earlier. We can't change our past, but maybe we can help you avoid our mistakes. The chamber was silent as delegates absorbed this. It was not the behavior of conquerors. It was not the action of a species seeking dominance. It was something else entirely. Something that most of them had no framework to understand. Finally, a young delegate spoke. She was from a small, peaceful world that had barely any military. I don't understand. You're the strongest. You could just take what you want. Why offer to help us? Chen walked over to stand near the young delegate. Because we're trying to be better than what we were. For 10,000 years, humanity took what we wanted. We conquered. We destroyed. We dominated. And you know what we learned? She looked around the chamber. We learned that winning doesn't mean anything if you lose yourself in the process. We learned that strength without purpose is just violence. We learned that the strong have a responsibility to protect, not oppress. Chen's voice grew passionate. We came to the stars hoping to find friends. We found you. And yes, you mocked us. Yes, you underestimated us. Yes, you threatened to take our territory. But you also showed us something important. You showed us a galaxy that talks instead of just fighting. A galaxy that tries diplomacy first. A galaxy that has rules and councils and attempts at civilization.